Chapter 3 Herman's Game of Luck. The Midsummer Festival had filled the village square with life. Banners snapped overhead, children darted between stalls, and laughter rose above the clamour of sellers and fiddlers. The quiet little town had become a whirl of voices, colour and celebration. Away from the crowd, at the edge of Whisper Marsh, Herman Green prepared his own contribution. His mushroom dwelling smelled of fruit and honey. The cluttered workbench before him piled with vials, dried leaves, and curious tools. His emerald coat hung neatly over a chair, for he worked in shirt sleeves.
"Now, where did I put that recipe?"
Herman muttered, patting his pockets. A snap of his fingers brightened his face.
"Of course."
He removed his tall green hat and plunged his arm deep inside, vanishing up to the shoulder into the boundless space hidden within. His rummaging ended with a triumphant tug on a yellowed parchment. The writing was elegant, far neater than his own hurried scrawl.
"Sherbet,"
he said, the word carrying an almost fond note. The memory returned clear and sharp. Centuries ago, when he wore a crown, sherbet had been a rare delicacy at a banquet. Servants had carried snow from mountain tops and mixed it with fruit juice and honey. The first bite had been like tasting summer and winter together, and Herman had never forgotten it.
"One of the few worthwhile things from those days,"
he admitted, spreading the parchment flat and weighing its corners with faintly glowing crystals. From his hat, he drew a glass vial, the last remnant of sherbet he'd bought from a vendor in the town he fled not long ago. He tipped it, sniffed, and frowned.
"Fair enough, but dull. What it needs is magic."
He reached in again and pulled 3 green leaves that shimmered, though they were dry to the touch.
"Sweet dream leaves,"
he said, crushing one in his fingers. Its scent, half honey and half cinnamon, drifted up. He sprinkled the powder into a copper pot, then poured in juices of apple and berry, sweetened with enchanted honey. As he stirred, his sleeves rolled back. Herman hummed a tune older than kingdoms. Into the mix, he dropped a pinch of mermaid's tears that sparkled like ground crystal. The final touch was 3 drops from a vial of blue liquid.
"Essence of winter's heart,"
he whispered. The mixture frosted at once, spreading cold across the pot as crystals formed and dissolved in endless patterns.
"Perfect,"
he said with a sly grin.
"Cold without ice. That'll catch their eyes."
He divided the base into smaller containers and flavoured each one differently. Strawberries dusted with fairy sparkles, apple with cinnamon that glowed faintly golden, berries with chopped nuts that gleamed silver. Each he sealed with a tap of his finger and a whispered charm. Satisfied, Herman closed his eyes and dipped his arm once more into his hat. The air bent with a creak of wood as he pulled forth a cart. It rolled into the room, panels painted with cheerful summer scenes, and a striped awning stretched overhead. Herman had altered it to his liking. The vendor's name had been scraped away and replaced with curling letters. Herman's Magical Sherbet. Along the edges, faint patterns of clover shimmered before fading, enchantments to tug fortune toward him rather than his customers. He had also built a false bottom inside where his magical sack now rested. Every coin dropped into the money box would vanish into the sack at midnight and return to him no matter who held it. Herman rubbed his hands together.
"And now, for the heart of it,"
He lifted his palms and spoke in the rolling cadence of spellcraft.
From winter's heart to summer's day, bring forth a chill to last the way.
The air condensed above his hands, forming a sphere of snow that hovered bright and cold. He guided it into the cart's cooling chamber, where frost spilled like mist and curled across the floor before fading. He stepped back to admire the work. The cart stood ready, the sherbet inside gleaming with colours that promised more than mere refreshment. Herman slipped on his emerald coat, straightened his hat, and studied his reflection in the copper pan that hung nearby. The eyes that stared back at him sparkled with cunning. He wheeled the cart forward. Its wheels moved smoothly, aided by magic. Herman tried his pitch in the voice of the locals, cheery and familiar. "Sherbet for the festival! The finest in all the realms!" The call rang through the little dwelling, and Herman laughed. A trick was nothing without performance, and this one promised both amusement and coin. The children would run to him, the parents would follow, and by night his sack would be heavy, while the town remained none the wiser. He tapped the cart with fondness.
Luck favours the clever.
By midday, the Midsummer Festival roared with life. Herman's cart drew more attention than jugglers or fiddlers, its green awning marked with faint clover patterns that shifted when the eye lingered. Frost clung to the silver container at its centre, sending up mist that curled like smoke in the heat. "Sherbet! Finest in all the realms!" Herman called, his brogue rolling warmly. "Cool your throats and delight your tongues with a magical treat." Children clustered near the counter, peering at the mist.
"Is it really magical?"
a freckled boy asked, rising on tiptoe. Herman leaned closer, eyes gleaming.
"The most magical sherbet ye'll taste, young sir. Fruit kissed by moonlight, honey gathered under stars. One bite,
and plain sherbet will never do again." Coins clinked as small hands scrambled into pockets. Herman scooped shining spheres of frozen sherbet into wafer cones, conjured fresh for the moment. Each ball glimmered with tiny flecks of silver, as though a handful of starlight had been folded into the mixture. Laughter rippled as the first children tasted. Their faces brightened, eyes wide, smiles breaking into giggles. The sweet dream leaves did their work, stirring memories of joy and weaving contentment through every bite. The sherbet was harmless, yet its magic coaxed bliss from even the most solemn child. Parents, curious, joined in, and soon wore the same looks of delight. Across the square, another figure moved toward the stall, dressed in plain brown with a wide-brimmed hat. He looked ordinary enough. Few noticed the faint shimmer that followed his steps. This was Herman, too, a magical double sent to play the crowd. The double lingered just long enough to watch a girl's astonishment as she bit into her cone.
"It tastes like sunshine," she gasped. "And streams on the mountain. It's like every happy day at once."
Her words spread through the gathering, and more villagers pressed close. Herman's plan was unfolding. The double raised his voice, sharp with challenge. "One bite and no more? Impossible. 10 gold coins says none of these children can stop themselves." The real Herman bristled in mock offence. "Sir, you wrong the willpower of these fine folk. Who among ye will prove him mistaken? Take one bite, stop, and claim the gold." Excited cries rang out.
"I will! Me too!"
Hands waved eagerly. What none of them knew was that every scoop carried Herman's enchantment. Each taste opened hunger for another until stopping was near impossible. The sweet dream leaves heightened the joy of flavour, while subtle binding spells drew the eater forward, bite after bite. The first challenger, a serious boy of 10, stepped up. Herman's double laid 10 gold coins on the counter for all to see. The true Herman handed over a cone with exaggerated flourish. "The finest berry sherbet in all the realms," he said. "Take your taste." The boy licked cautiously. His face shifted at once from determination to wonder. The magic worked swiftly. The sherbet tasted of every warm day, every treasured memory, each joy sharpened to perfection. He trembled, then licked again and again. Soon the cone was gone. His cheeks red with embarrassment, though his eyes still shone. The crowd erupted in laughter and chatter. Herman's double swept the coins back with a satisfied nod. "Bad luck, lad. Who else is bold enough to try?" Another stepped forward, a girl this time, her friends cheering her on. She too fell to the same fate. One bite led to another, each more irresistible than the last. The game became a spectacle. Children and even a handful of adults lined up, swearing they would not falter. Each boasted of their iron will. Each surrendered, overcome by the enchantment woven into every spoonful. With every attempt, the crowd grew louder, the laughter warmer, and with every failure, Herman's purse swelled. Coins clinked in the hidden sack beneath the cart, a sound only Herman could hear. His double, meanwhile, gathered his own share from challengers, the trick working in perfect rhythm. From the outside it looked harmless fun, a wager between showman and skeptic, yet Herman knew better. This was no accident. He had crafted the perfect loop of desire, delight, and loss, all while his name spread wider through the crowd. Standing behind the cart, his eyes sparkled. Mischief sat easily on him, as natural as breathing. Among the festival crowd, a small girl with dark eyes and pigtails, tied with blue ribbons, lingered at the edge. Unlike the others, she did not rush forward. She watched both Hermans carefully, her young mind trying to piece together what she saw. At first she laughed with the others as each challenger failed, but soon her attention drifted from the contestants to the two men themselves. Their gestures matched, their heads tilted in the same way when they laughed. She noticed even smaller details. When the stranger reached for coins, his hand moved with the same precise rhythm as the sherbet vendor. When he laughed at a failure, it was not merely similar, it was the same laugh. Most telling of all, the two men never once met each other's eyes, though they stood only a few feet apart. Her suspicions hardened when a gust of wind lifted the stranger's brown coat. For an instant, emerald green flashed beneath. Children see what adults dismiss. She raised her hand and shouted,
"Look! They're the same person! He has the same green coat under that brown one and the same silver buckle on his belt."
A murmur spread through the crowd. Herman's concentration slipped, and the double's illusion flickered. Several onlookers glimpsed the emerald coat beneath.
"And they never look at each other,"
the girl pressed on, her voice stronger now.
"It's the same person in two places."
Herman recognized the danger at once. The trick had been spotted, and by a child, no less. With the pride of a true leprechaun, he turned exposure into spectacle. With a grand sweep of his hands, he flung dust into the air.
"Oh, me trickery revealed!"
he cried, his brogue thickening. Above the crowd, dust flared into a swirl of stars and moons that twinkled as if they danced in the sky.
"What's a poor leprechaun to do?"
While the villagers gaped upward, Herman traced symbols in the air. Sweet clouds of sugar rose, scented with vanilla and fruit, wrapping both Hermans in a sparkling whirl. In a puff of gold-green smoke carrying the scent of clover and berries, both vanished. Only the frost-covered container remained. For a heartbeat, silence hung over the square. Then came shouts, laughter, and astonished cries. "He's a leprechaun!" someone exclaimed. "A real leprechaun amongst us!" The girl, now the centre of attention, explained simply,
"I just looked carefully. My grandmother says to watch the hands and the eyes. They tell you more than words ever will."
Meanwhile, several children discovered their coins gone from Herman's box, replaced with painted pebbles. Yet none were angry. The sherbet's delight lingered, and the magic had left them too happy to care.
"Even if the Ouija wasn't real, the taste surely was,"
declared one boy, still glowing with joy. By evening, the tale of the leprechaun sherbet vendor had already grown taller with every retelling. Some swore Herman had turned the entire sherbet container into butterflies. Others claimed he had shrunk to thimble size and flown away on a sparrow. As twilight deepened, a knock sounded on the door of Herman's woodland dwelling. He peered through a magical peephole and was surprised to see the girl with blue ribbons standing there. She showed no fear, though the forest shadows pressed close.
"I know you're in there, Mr. Leprechaun,"
she called, her brogue echoing his own.
"I followed the trail of clovers you left behind. Grandmother says they only grow where leprechaun feet have stepped."
Herman hesitated, then cracked the door.
"Clever child,"
he said, his voice softening now that the performance was over.
"What brings you here? Seeking revenge for the coins that turned to pebbles?"
The girl, Eliza, he recalled from the crowd's chatter, shook her head. She held out a small silver coin.
"I came to return this. I didn't change back like the others. I thought it might matter."
Herman's eyes widened. It was no common piece, but one of his own. Imbued with magic he had been cultivating for months. Losing it would have been costly.
"Well now,"
he murmured, bowing with rare sincerity.
"Unexpected honesty from one so young, especially toward a trickster."
Eliza shrugged.
"Grandmother says honesty to the fee brings good fortune. Besides," she added with a grin, "the sherbet was worth every penny, even the ones that weren't real."
Herman studied her with interest. Such plain wisdom was unusual in a child.
"What's your name, truthful one?"
"Eliza O'Sullivan,"
she said proudly. The Irish lilt in her surname explained her easy knack for his brogue.
"Well, Eliza O'Sullivan," Herman said, fishing in his pocket, "honesty deserves a reward."
He placed a smooth grey stone in her palm.
"Keep it with you. When you truly need a stroke of luck, whisper my name to it 3 times, but remember, it works only once. Choose the moment carefully."
Eliza tucked the stone into her pocket with solemn care.
"Thank you, Mr. Green. Will you be at next year's festival?"
"Perhaps,"
Herman said, smiling.
"Though I'll need a new disguise. The sherbet trick won't work twice, not with sharp-eyed lasses about."
He conjured a small light to guide her home. As she vanished into the trees, Herman felt a warmth he rarely admitted, an appreciation for honesty and for the chance to give something genuine in return. The silver coin she had brought back he placed not in his magical sack, but in a special pocket in his hat. Some things deserved remembering. Later, Herman spread a weathered map across his table. His finger stopped on a village marked Frogsville.
The Goblin's Den, he mused. A notorious tavern where goblins and tricksters gather. Oh, a fine place for a new game.
His eyes gleamed with anticipation. The road ahead promised challenge, mischief, and coin. Exactly the sort of adventure Herman Green craved.